As we move on to our next story, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has strongly responded to the UK's decision to suspend free trade agreement negotiations and impose sanctions on settlers in the West Bank, calling the measures unjustified and regrettable. They warned that these actions come at a time when Israel is mourning the loss of Tzila Jez, who was killed in a terror attack while headed to the hospital to deliver her baby. The ministry also criticized the UK government for prioritizing domestic politics over the mutual benefits of the trade agreement, suggesting that the UK's anti-Israel stance is harming its own economy. This comes as the UK, along with France and Canada, threatens concrete actions if Israel continues its military operations in Gaza and blocks humanitarian aid. Additionally, UK Middle East Minister Hamish Falconer has summoned Israel's ambassador to the UK amid rising tensions. We have guests joining us. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has strongly responded to the UK's decision to suspend free trade agreement negotiations and impose sanctions on settlers in the West Bank, calling the measures unjustified and regrettable. They warn that these actions come at a time when Israel is mourning the loss of Tzila Jez, who was killed in a terror attack while heading to the hospital to deliver her baby. The ministry also criticized the UK government for prioritizing domestic politics over the mutual benefits of the trade agreement, suggesting that the UK's anti-Israel stance is harming its own economy. Now we have guests joining us, Yossi Cooper-Vosser, Israeli intelligence and security expert live from Tel Aviv, Israel. Thank you for joining us. What impact could the UK's sanctions have on the fragile political relations between the two countries?
Well, I don't think it's going to have a lot of impact on the relationships because this is an act of extravaganza by the British. They don't mean much by doing that because, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel has explained, the talks about the free trade were not going anywhere anyhow, so it's not going to have much impact on the relationships. The climate in the relationship is quite cool recently, anyhow, and it's going to continue to be like that.
And your stance on, could the new sanctions pressure the Israeli government to improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza?
We are taking steps in order to make sure that the living conditions in Gaza are adequate. And we don't need the pressure of the UK or any other country for that to be the case, because it's our interest to make sure that this is the way it's going to happen in Gaza while we conduct the Chariots of Gideon operation in Gaza and in an attempt to convince Hamas to release the hostages and to remove them from power in Gaza so that the people that live around Gaza will be able to return safely to their homes. That's the goal that we have, and we are going to continue moving in this direction with or without those sanctions by the Europeans, especially by the Brits.
And last but not least, what are the potential consequences if Israel continues its military operations in Gaza amid increasing international calls for humanitarian aid access?
Well, I hope that the consequences are going to be that eventually Hamas will adopt a more flexible position and will allow us to release the hostages and to bring the hostages back home and remove themselves from power in Gaza, disarm themselves. That's the only solution that can hold and bring about the end of this war. And I hope this is what's going to happen. I would much prefer to see the Europeans, and especially the Brits, put the pressure on Hamas instead of putting the pressure on Israel. It was Hamas that carried out the terror attack on October 7th, 2023, and Israel is now responding and defending itself. And the direction of this rage of the Europeans should be towards the Hamas or the terror organization, not towards Israel, who's trying to defend its citizens.
Thank you, Yossi Cooper-Wasser, for joining us. And well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring more news updates from around the world.